Regulation is walking over and turning down the smoke detector every time it goes off. Super useful skill. You need it, but if the smoke detector is broken, if it's screaming every time you make toast, turning it down every single time is not a life. That's maintenance. Rewiring is showing the smoke detector over and over there's no fire until it stops going off at the burnt toast. Hey there, and welcome to the Heal with Grace podcast. I'm your host, Grace Secker, and I'm a holistic licensed therapist and nervous system coach who believes that the chronic and often unseen symptoms you're living with are a sign of something deeper going on, a sign that your nervous system needs attention. In each episode, I'll share the science behind the most common chronic health disorders, plus holistic tips using mental, physical, and spiritual practices. You'll hear what I've learned in my journey and the true stories from our trusted guests, so you can feel less alone in your experience and give yourself grace no matter what you're going through. So without further ado, settle in and get cozy. It's time to heal with grace. Hello, and welcome back to the Heal with Grace podcast. I'm excited for this episode where I am speaking directly to the therapist and practitioner here. You could be a coach, functional practitioner, any kind of person that works with people in the wellness space. If you are not a practitioner and you are here on this podcast and you're an avid listener that I've been listening every week, you don't want to miss this either, because I think that you're actually going to get a lot of value out of this. I've actually gone back and forth on, do I just talk about this in general, right? And what I wish people knew about the nervous system, or do I make it specific to a therapist or practitioner listening? And I went with the latter because this is it's another passion of mine now to help other wellness professionals and healers understand this work so that then we can make an even bigger ripple effect here, right? Because I know if you are a client, which, by the way, I'm sure a lot of you who are practitioners listening to this, you have also been the client and you're here for a reason. You came to this podcast because you've either dealt with it for yourself, within yourself, you've dealt with some kind of pain or illness or physical manifestations of stress. And you also probably are starting to see this in the people that you work with. So my point being is that if you have been someone who has gone to a practitioner and they didn't really know how to help you, that's why I'm creating this. And that is why, actually, I am creating a training for the practitioners to learn about this work, to learn how to approach people when they come to them with these pains and illnesses that they've been labeled as just is what it is, and you have to live with it, right? They're just chronic conditions that we can actually help that. We can recover from those. And as a practitioner, you can help people that you work with recover from them, or at least have the language to talk with them about it. That's the purpose of this episode and a few more that are coming out like this. And the purpose of why I am now going to be launching the mind-body integration method training for practitioners this fall. So stay tuned about that. But the point of this episode is to help people understand more than let's just regulate our nervous systems because societal standards have dysregulated us and trauma dysregulates you. Yes, that is all very important. And I'm really glad that's a common conversation now. We can talk about how it's trendy, blah, 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 but it's trendy for a reason, y'all. It needs to be there. And I'm so happy to see it out there. And also, there often is a missing piece to this, right? So a lot of people understand what the nervous system is now. And if not, that's fine too. I will talk you through it. And they might understand that being in a stress state for a long time can dysregulate them and lead to things like anxiety or feeling depleted or depressed. But they don't often recognize that it can lead to things like chronic pains, chronic fatigue, interstitial cystitis, OAB, pelvic pain, back pain, neck pain, gut issues, neck issues, migraines, sensitivity disorders, food sensitivities. And even if you understand that, nervous system can lead to these things, like a stress place, right? We understand stress affects the body. We totally get that, which is wonderful. But then we kind of stop there. Okay, I'm going to help you then manage that and be with it and learn to help yourself because you have these things, these conditions, these labels. What I'm introducing and helping. Well, I'm not the one personally introducing this. This is not the work that I've created in the world. This is the work that I do, by the way. There's plenty of people out there, plenty of other practitioners and doctors and places that I've learned this. But my mission is to share it and to spread it. And our work is to help you understand that your stress levels, not that you're consciously doing it, but stress that has built up over time in your life, have led more to a stress place in your body, and your body is taking that on with certain pains and illnesses and conditions. It doesn't stop there. It's not like, oh, wow, yeah, that's part of life, It's no, okay, well, if it learned that, we can help it unlearn it. We can help rewire those signals. And people might be like, oh, that's like charlatan work. Like, who knows, what are you saying? Stop trying to trick people. And no, sorry, I didn't mean to totally laugh at that. I understand a lot of people have fear around being misled, and you've probably gone down a lot of roads trying to figure out how to help yourself. But no, this work is very real, very, very real. And I have done it myself. I have recovered from many different chronic pains and illnesses, and that is exactly the work that I do. So my promise for this episode, by the end, you're going to know the difference between regulating a nervous system and rewiring it, and why we even need to understand that difference. And you're going to understand why most of us were really only trained for one of them. And then you're going to see what's possible for your clients and for you when you are doing the work of both. So first of all, I want to just name the gap in our training. And this is not to be like, oh my gosh, people did us wrong. We didn't get the right training. No, not at all. This is just the work that's evolving. Our field is evolving. And we now have this wonderful mind-body space where we recognize, oh, hey, it's not just mental health or just physical health. They're combined. And as a therapist or coach or practitioner, whatever you are trained in, you were probably trained in one or the other, right? Either you're a physical therapist, or you're a mental health therapist, or you're a wellness coach, or you're a functional practitioner. And we have our lanes, right? Which is a good thing. We can't specialize in everything. We can't be a, whole body healer. At least I don't believe that I am. But I do think, and I know now, we know that we didn't need to be so cut off. So as a therapist, as a mental health licensed therapist, I went through all the training, right? Grad school, internship, supervision hours. I specialized in eating disorders for a while. So I've always kind of had a, mind-body component to the work that I do. And I got good training. I learned how to hold space, to build that therapeutic relationship, how to really sit with difficult feelings and thought process, and how to work with patterns and trauma histories. I learned a lot, and I was good at that for a long time. But we didn't recognize, we were never really taught that the nervous system is actively generating physical symptoms in a huge portion of our caseloads. And some physicians in this space estimate close to 40% of people walking through a primary care door having symptoms driven this way. The same people that end up on our couches, in our rooms, on our Zoom call. So what happens is when we hear, or sometimes we don't even hear that they have a chronic pain or an illness, right? Because we're not even assessing for it, which I never did. I never asked in the beginning of my work, beginning days of being a therapist, do you have chronic pain or illness? I didn't ask that. I was never taught to. And it would come up maybe sometimes, right? But that was not something I assessed for. And so that's what I want to change. I want us to learn how to assess for it, and then how to help someone through it if that's something that you want to do and feel comfortable end up doing. This is to help you recognize that when a client mentions, when you assess for and you ask if they have any sort of labels or things that they've been given when it comes to physical pain or illness, that you don't just sit there and nod and empathize, that you feel confident saying, hey, I can help you with that. Do you want help? Or do you want to work through some of that? Right? For example, the client whose stomach is always an issue, right, with IBS or something like that, but the GI test comes back normal. Or the client whose chronic pain always moves around and they're in the PT office every single day. The client who is constantly fatigued and exhausted, missing work, missing things that they don't really know what to do because no one's ever really helped them. So one thing I want to reframe about the nervous system is that a lot of times we recognize, okay, there's the relaxation response, right? There's rest and digest, which is the healthy state. And we want to be in that more often than not, right? There's the hyper arousal state where there's more anxiety, there's more fear and hypervigilance, right? A lot of people live in this state of constant anxiety in the nervous system and the stress response. And then there's hypoarousal, which might look like more like depression, lethargy, fatigue, things like that. And a lot of times we kind of think of it as this stress anxiety system, which is a good way to think of it. But I want you to start thinking of it as the prediction system, where its only job is protection. It's scanning all day, everything, every single day underneath consciousness. Am I safe right now or am I not? Every face, every email, every sensation in the body, every memory that floats through, safe or not safe. That's the whole gig. And when the answer comes back not safe, the nervous system doesn't just hand you anxiety. That's the part we were taught. What we weren't taught is that a system stuck in protection can produce physical symptoms like pain, fatigue, gut symptoms, dizziness, migraines, food reactions, bladder symptoms, and they are 100% real, physical, measurable in the body symptoms. Some people, they have scans and tests come back with some certain labels or gut findings, maybe a irregular heart rate or something when it leads to POTS or dizziness. Maybe they come back with food sensitivities tests that's like crazy off the charts. But then there's also people where they go get assessed by a physical functional or primary care functional provider, and there's literally nothing. Their tests are like, oh, you're normal, but they have real symptoms. I want to be really clear that if you're sitting here and your clients have those, they have been told probably time and time again that either they have these issues or there's nothing wrong. So it's just in their head. I really want to validate, like my first job with clients that are just coming to this work is validating over and over and over again. Your pain is real. Your fatigue is real. The signal generating it is just coming from the brain and the nervous system instead of from some sort of damage in the body. So how does that happen? The brain learns symptoms the same way it learns everything else, through repetition. So here's what happens. Something stressful happens, could be an injury, an illness, a hard season in life, a death, a trauma, and so a danger signal fires. Over time, when the nervous system says, we don't know how to handle this stressor in life anymore, so we're going to constantly be on guard to make sure it doesn't happen again, then over time, it can't handle it anymore, so physical symptoms show up. It's quote unquote easier for our bodies to have physical symptoms rather than feel emotions or deal with an injury or a death or a grief or a transition in life on the mental and emotional side than it is the physical side. It's more societally acceptable, right, to have a physical abnormality, condition, label, something like that. So the brain doing its job links the two. The sensation means danger, and then the person, understandably, gets scared of that symptom. They start scanning for it, monitoring it, bracing against it. So a great example is a food sensitivity. Or maybe someone has migraines and they've kind of tracked like what could bring on a migraine. So consciously and unconsciously, they're always scanning for it. They're always making sure that they're not eating that food. And then they're conscious about, oh my gosh, if I did, if something's going to happen, I'm going to react. Or they're constantly scanning for what could impact them. And so then the brain goes, see, I told you these were dangerous. And so you're on high alert all the time. And it strengthens that pathway. If you do that enough times, something happens. The symptom actually doesn't need the original stressor anymore. The pathway runs on its own. The injury healed years ago. The stressful season ended, but the alarm is stuck in the on position. The brain built a neural pathway of pain, of illness, and now it's just running the program. This is what we call neuroplastic symptoms, symptoms created and maintained by a brain that learned them. Now, here's the part where I need you to lean in because this is the basics of the whole episode. If the brain learned the symptom, the brain can unlearn it. If the nervous system learned the pattern, the nervous system can unlearn it. I said that in a bit of a obvious way. It's when I say it out loud, it probably is like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense, right? But we don't know that. We don't learn that, right? We stop at like, oh, pain and illness, like we can't change those things. but we can. So we, as any kind of wellness practitioner, you know what neuroplasticity is, right? It's been around for a while. We know what it is. It's not a one-way street. The same mechanism that wired the pain can wire it. We can apply neuroplasticity to physical manifestations of stress. So the same mechanism that wired the pain or the illness pattern in can wire it out. This isn't just positive thinking. It's not just wishful thinking. This is where the whole field, I believe, of wellness is heading. We learn these things from brain retraining, pain reprocessing therapy, somatic approaches, psychoeducation. There's real research behind it, real recovery is happening. Like I said, I've lived it and I'm watching clients live it every single day. Regulation is not just what I'm talking about. I'm not just talking about regulate your nervous system and it'll get you out of the pattern. Here's what I'm actually talking about. Because first, yes, regulation is super important, right? Let's learn how we've gotten ourselves into a stress place and let's learn how to bring ourselves back into the rest and digest more often than not. That's wonderful. Regulation is state management. It's moment to moment. It's noticing, I've left my window of tolerance. My breath is shallow. My shoulders are at my ears. I'm spiraling and I'm using a tool to come back. A longer exhale, slowing down, feeling your feet on the floor, orienting to the room, being with another calm, co-regulated human. Those things are regulation. And the more that we do them over and over and over again, that's the foundation. And when we do it over and over, it can become rewiring. But at the basic, it is a regulation tool to build more safety in the body. A nervous system that never gets to feel safe cannot do deeper work. So if you skip this and you go straight into the deep stuff, into trauma processing or symptom rewiring, it can backfire. And the system gets overwhelmed and slams the door. So I'm not about to tell you regulation doesn't matter. It absolutely does, but there is a limit here. And this is what I want people to understand more about. If regulation is all you do, that's amazing, right? Like you're learning how to probably co-regulate, how to help your patient, your client feel more safe and grounded. That's huge, especially if they've never really learned that. So if they have that kind of relationship with you, like seriously amazing, that's some of the best work you can do. That's a little bit more like managing the danger alarm, right? Think about a smoke detector. Regulation is walking over and turning down the smoke detector every time it goes off. Super useful skill. You need it. But if the smoke detector is broken, if it's screaming every time you make toast, turning it down every single time is not a life. That's maintenance. Rewiring is showing the smoke detector over and over there's no fire until it stops going off at the burnt toast. Something I see often, and I did this for a long time, is pseudo-regulation. So we might turn the tools into another performance, right? Like a checklist to do. Make sure I have this routine every single day to make sure I'm regulated. I sleep this amount of hours. I do this. I don't do this. And, kind of doing breathing with like a clenched jaw, doing the somatic practices, doing the things, but they're still kind of white knuckling through it. And they still have this, I'll speak for me. I still had this feeling that I was really fragile, that my body was super fragile, even though I could objectively see I slowed down. I helped myself in many ways. I learned to reflect a little bit more, to breathe more, to have more spaces and times of regulation, which is wonderful. And also, there still was this little quiet humming of like, I was afraid of so many things because I was afraid that I still had this feeling that I was fragile, that like any little thing could kind of throw me off. That is why we bring in then the rewiring, because rewiring is changing the baseline. It's teaching the brain through repeated lived experience, not through insight, not just through understanding it intellectually, but through experience, that this sensation that we're experiencing is safe, that this physical feeling in my body, there's actually nothing wrong. And it's just my brain and nervous system sending danger signals. That understanding and then the practice of reminding yourself over and over again and learning not to pay so much attention to the body's sensations. Just a little caveat here. I am not saying any kind of pain or illness. I am not saying to do this with cancer or organ failure or any kind of structural illness. I'm saying we do that with neuroplastic symptoms, which, by the way, I have a free assessment tool that you can download below, or you can grab the link below to get the free assessment tool that you can use with yourself and clients. And also, if you are someone that's doing this work for yourself, it can be a great way to check your symptoms. So check there. If they fit neuroplastic symptoms, then this is what we're talking about. So we start meeting the sensation with curiosity instead of fear. We start rewiring the signal of, oh, there's something wrong, I'm having this sensation, to actually, I know that this is just a protective mechanism and I don't need that anymore. So we start to rewire those signals, also while continuing to send the body messages of safety while the symptom is present. So it's not just about breathing and softening, but also an internal dialogue of, hey, actually, we're okay right now, while the sensation is there. That moment, that symptom present, that fear absent, that is the rep. That's what builds the new pathway. Every time the brain produces the signal and nothing bad happens and nobody panics, the prediction gets updated. The sensation might not mean danger. And you do that enough times, and the brain does what brains do with pathways that stop getting used. It lets them fade. So to summarize, regulation asks, how do I feel better right now? Rewiring asks, how do I teach my system a new default? Right? One is a tool that also informs the other of actual recovery and healing. The last thing I'll say about this is that recovery is not the absence of sensation. Bodies have sensations all the time, because we go through stress in life, right? Recovery is the absence of fear of the sensation, the absence of letting the symptom, the condition run our lives. When the fear stops, the symptoms stop needing to produce the signal. So there is less scanning for it, there's probably less symptoms, and there's more just living in life. So let's make this a little practical right now. What does this actually change on a Tuesday afternoon with a client sitting in front of you? One, you learn to speak to this. You learn to help them, right? Teach them. You stop treating physical symptoms as outside your scope by default if you're a mental health practitioner. And if you're a physical practitioner, maybe you start to talk to them about things that are not physical. Or you refer them to a space that they can learn about this. If you're someone who doesn't always treat physical manifestations of symptoms, client might mention a pain, fatigue, gut stuff, and you automatically think, okay, well, that's not mine. That's medical. And look, obviously medical care, appropriate medical care always comes first and is very important. But once the workups are clear and the symptoms persist and they meet neuroplastic symptoms, that client doesn't need another referral into the void of practitioners. They need someone who understands what their nervous system is doing. And that's you. Therapy has always actually been rewiring. Working with cognitive distortions, rewiring. Reprocessing trauma is rewiring. Building a different relationship with old patterns is rewiring, right? All of therapy is aimed at tending and soothing the nervous system. We've just never applied it to the body's symptoms directly. And you don't need to become a pain specialist. If you can help someone by being in a relational state to help soothe their nervous system, and you already do it every session, you can learn to work with what the nervous system is producing. I'll tell you what this work did for me. I hear this from a lot of therapists that I work with as well, is that it didn't just change my clients' outcomes, it changed how it feels to do the work. I have felt so much more confident in the work that I do since learning about this, because I know without a shadow of a doubt that I can help them. It is very clear, even if it doesn't feel that clear, right? Like, I'm not saying the healing is always clear because it can be messy and nonlinear, but I know, and it helps them too. The more that I know and I'm confident about it, it helps them feel safe and taken care of and soothed, right? Whereas before I was doubting myself a lot. And look, I still do. Like, I'm not perfect, but I know I can come back to this time and time again, that what I'm doing matters and what I'm doing can actually really, really help them, because I finally have a map for the clients that I work with. So if you are sitting here and you're some sort of practitioner that works with patients, clients in the wellness space, and something here is having you nod along the whole time, I am hosting a free masterclass, and I'm teaching all about this. I'm teaching about how to start actually working with people. What are the first couple steps you need to confidently work with people to help them regulate and rewire and understand the identity layers underneath it all, taught in a way that you can actually use right after the class. The clients whose symptoms don't resolve with talk alone, right? You'll leave with the lens, not just the theory. So to grab your seat, click the link below. You can sign up. Again, it's free. You'll get the recording if you can't make it. And thank you. Thank you for being here, because it means that you care about the work that you do. It means that you want to help more people and you see a gap in maybe your understanding or the training that you've had, and you're looking for more. I don't know about you, but I'm always a student at heart. Like, I'm always learning and understanding more tools and techniques, and that's where I got myself today. So thank you for being here. Thank you for doing the work that you do. And I feel very honored to now start supporting you if that's what you feel is right. Also, if this episode landed and you want to send it to a colleague that you have, or hey, if you are someone doing this work yourself and you want to send this to a therapist you're working with or a practitioner you're working with, please do. This is how the work spreads, right? Thank you for being here with me today. Until next time, take care of yourself and keep healing with grace.